you ready to revolutionize your relationship with money? Welcome to the Finding Financial Freedom podcast with the Frugal Physician, where I, Dr. Disha Spath, will be your companion on this exciting adventure. Get ready to conquer debt, build wealth, and embrace a mindful spending lifestyle that will empower you to live life on your own terms. This show is sponsored by Set for Life Insurance, the ultimate client experience in the insurance industry. Are you looking for the perfect insurance coverage that suits your needs? Founded in 1993 by President Jamie K. Fleischner, Set for Life Insurance specializes in individual life, disability, and long-term care insurance. As brokers, they represent numerous companies in the industry, ensuring that their clients get the best products at the most cost-effective rate. What sets Set for Life Insurance apart? You'll enjoy special discounts, priority underwriting handling, and even exceptions in the underwriting process. So why wait? Contact Set for Life Insurance today and let them be your insurance partner for life. Visit their website at www.setforlifeinsurance.com or call them toll-free at 1-888-553-3559. Welcome to another episode of Finding Financial Freedom with the Frugal Physician. I'm your host, Dr. Disha Spath, and today we have an incredible guest with us, Dr. Kathy Stepien, a life and career coach for women physicians. Kathy has a fascinating background, having transitioned from physical therapy to medicine and becoming a coach to empower fellow physicians in their personal and professional lives. She's here to talk to us today about physician wellness and how finance relates to it. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
It's so great to have you. I'm so glad you could come and make time in your busy schedule.
Oh, absolutely. I think that it's wonderful to be able to reach physicians around the nation, around the world, and help each other out, right? Help each other find a way forward that really is meaningful and important and sustainable and healthy and all the good things.
Yes, exactly. I recently found out you're a tennis player, so you're definitely into physician wellness as far as I'm concerned. Do you play a lot?
Yes and no. I took up tennis after I had a big birthday, and I was looking for a new sport that I had never played before that I thought, you know what, I'll be able to play this until I'm 90, right? Or 90 plus. Unfortunately, my attempts into learning to play have been a little bumpy. I've had a couple of orthopedic issues I'm addressing, but it is so fun. It's social. It's great exercise. I'm learning something completely new. So to be brand new at this stage of life is actually really fun too.
Yeah.
It's such a fun sport. I'm just loving it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's tough on your joints, though. You got to keep those ligaments healthy because otherwise it's very asymmetric. Kathy, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself, where you are right now, and a little bit about your journey?
Absolutely. So I am a pediatrician. I fell into pediatrics kind of by accident. It was not at all my intention when I started medical school. But along the way, it found me and I found it, and it's just been a perfect fit for me. I currently work at our local tribal health clinic doing outpatient pediatrics.
Wonderful.
And I work part-time. And I plan to continue to do that for a very long time. Because I am also the director of the Institute for Physician Wellness, my time is split. And a couple of years ago, I really had to have a sit down with myself to reconsider. I'm like, do I really want to keep practicing medicine? I'm pulled in so many different directions. Where do I want to focus my time and my energies? And it was really clear to me that, yes, pediatrics is actually something I really enjoy doing and I want to keep doing until they take the stethoscope out of my hands.
That's wonderful.
It is. I also, like I mentioned, I'm the director for the Institute for Physician Wellness. And so we started out in 2016 holding physician wellness retreats and medical education for physicians. And it has just absolutely grown. And it's been such an incredible ride and joyful process to learn and grow and bring physicians together to heal and learn and connect, grow in all kinds of ways. And so what started out as retreats, and it's now just expanded to bigger conferences. Also, as you mentioned, a physician coach. We have our chief wellness officer training and certification program. We offer all kinds of medical education. We're in it. It's just a wonderful complement to the clinical care that I do as well.
Yeah, it's so necessary. The wellness space in the physician world has recently grown, by leaps and bounds. And it's completely needed, in today's environment with COVID, with everything that's going on. I'm really interested, though, how you went from being a physical therapist and then to medicine and then to coaching. Can you share with what led you to make that transition and how it influenced your perspective on physician wellness?
I think I am a lifelong learner. Absolutely. I have a high level of intellectual curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very growth-oriented just by nature. So my first career was in physical therapy. Unfortunately, I grew up in a time and place where I was told that there really wasn't a chance for women to go into medicine, which is just absolutely insane to even now. I know my own children have asked me, well, Mom, can boys be doctors too? I'm like, Where I was raised, weren't really guided into medicine. In fact, just the opposite. And so I chose to go into physical therapy and I enjoyed it. I actually worked for 13 years as a physical therapist. But throughout that time, I was really yearning to go into medicine as well. One of the things that was really influential for me during that stage was that I burned out. I had no boundaries. I was very service oriented and just giving and giving, even when my cup was dry. It led to burnout. I felt terrible. I felt so guilty that I was in this wonderful profession and people were coming to me for help, but I just had nothing left to give. And I felt terrible admitting that to myself and kind of did that burnout roller coaster that so many of us do, where it's like, I feel a little bit better and you make some changes and you take a vacation or whatever it might be. And then you're like, yeah, this isn't working.
Mm-hmm.
It was during that time, toward the end of my work as a physical therapist, I went to graduate school in philosophy where I focused on ethics, which again, my intellectual curiosity, I just love these bigger questions.
Mm-hmm.
And that feeling of, I really am interested in medicine. And if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it type feeling really hit me. So I actually started medical school when I was 35.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I was one of the older students, but not the oldest. And like I said, I just kind of fell into pediatrics. I was planning to go into OBGYN and realized that pediatrics is just the better fit for where I'm at in my life. So that's kind of my journey to where I am today.
Wonderful. I mean, how brave, first of all, for you to make these different career changes and really just look into yourself and acknowledge where you are and then decide to make some changes. I really admire that. And I wonder, how did physician wellness in that space and the thinking about the wellness in healthcare in general, how did your training and your journey affect your vision of that?
Wow, it really goes far back. I think by nature, I am a gatherer of people, and I always have been. So even when I was a physical therapist or in grad school or in medical school or wherever I've been in my life, I've always brought people together for various reasons, and including for retreats. There became a time where my children were old enough and I was kind of ready out of residency, had my feet a little bit more on the ground practicing. Like, I'm ready to actually bring retreats for physicians now. In addition to many other things, led to me opening IPW and starting to offer retreats. Part of it is that I'm naturally a gatherer of people. I love to bring people together for meaningful conversations and for our own learning and our own growth. And the life kind of unfolds in its own mysterious way.
Yeah.
We find ourselves down the road. I can tell you that having been through burnout, that informed my decision as well. I knew that when I changed careers into medicine, I knew that I would need to be doing things very differently or I would burn out again, right?
Yeah.
And then when I was practicing as a pediatrician, especially with young children, I thought, wow, I know I'm not the only one struggling.
Yeah.
Struggling to do a great job at work, struggling to somehow do a great job at home and everything, all the different pieces. So I felt, well, I'm not the only one. And we need to get together and support each other and all rise.
Yeah.
It's kind of been my motivation.
Yeah. I don't talk about this much, but I actually took a year off of medicine between second and third year of medical school. I kind of powered through, college and went straight into medical school. And as soon as I started hitting some of my clinical work, I got really disenchanted because it felt like every doctor that I met was burned out. People seem to just be grinding it out, waiting for the day where they can retire or do something different. And I really began to question, is this the right path for me? Am I going down the right path? That, along with some other anxiety issues that I needed to take care of, I decided to just go ahead and take a year off and just do a whole bunch of self-healing, I went away to California and just had a great time. I taught for Kaplan full time, so I had a salary. I could support myself. My parents were like, no way, we're not going to pay for your year off of medical school. What are you talking about? Find a way to support yourself. And thankfully, life happened and the perfect opportunity came along at the perfect time. And I took it. Through this year of basically pursuing wellness for myself, I realized how much of a privilege medicine really is. The fact that you get to learn all this stuff about the human body and help people when they're sick. I mean, it's an incredible privilege. And that gratitude for the opportunity to learn medicine came back. And there have been ups and downs since then too, but that year was pivotal for me to look back and look into why I'm doing medicine, but keeping in mind that a lot of people around me were burned out, right? And we need doctors to be happier. And how do we get there? Because it's such an important service.
Absolutely. I love what you mentioned just about what a privilege it is. I think when we're all burned out and we're just, the EMR is crashing and we're behind and everybody wants everything from us all the time, it's hard to, in that moment, feel like, wow, what a privilege it is to do this job. But I do feel like being a physician, it feels like such an honor to me. And we contain these skills and this body of knowledge that is so unique to medicine. And to be able to take that and share that and improve the lives of others is truly an honor.
Yeah.
I think it's challenging, of course, to do that in today's medical system, but truly is a privilege. And I'm sorry that you went through struggles and needed to take time off. But actually, I'm not sorry, because look how it probably informed your life, right? How it informed your career and who you are as a human being. And how wonderful that you were able to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm so grateful for that year. My mentors encouraged me to take the year off. They said, you really need to make sure you are 100% into this if you're going to finish medical school, because it's a lot of time, it's a lot of life, and it's a lot of money. And I'm so glad I did it. It was the best year of my life. I mean, other than my family now, but as far as growth and introspection, it was a very valuable year for me. So taking that time, I took my time away from everyone else, basically, that I knew across the country. But you are working on coaching physicians and helping them get to that point without hopefully having to take an entire year off, which is actually not a bad thing if you need to do that. Like I said, amazing year for me. But can you tell us a little bit about physician coaching, the value of it, and what coaches bring to the table?
Oh, wow. The coaching, there's all different kinds of coaching. We really draw on a broad foundation of perspectives to bring as we work with, like I specifically work with physicians. And coaching in medicine has been shown to be incredibly impactful. We've known, I think the first randomized clinical trial came out in 2019 that showed, yes, physicians who work with coaches have improvements in their quality of life. They have less emotional exhaustion. They measured resiliency, which I think is a really sticky word, but they showed improvements in resiliency as well. That was one gold standard clinical trial by some of the leaders in the country, and it was published in JAMA. And there's been so many studies since then that's just more and more data coming out that, yes, actually these interventions can really help with physician well-being. The cool part is this comes in the context of what we've known for decades, that yes, by qualitative research and by case report, and actually just by anecdote, physicians have been saying, I worked with a coach and it really made a huge difference for me. And it's brought some clarity and some skills to the table that I didn't have before. I think for me, working with physicians, what is so important is really this feeling of alignment. I think when we get out of alignment, there's almost this internal friction or stress that we bring to the table that we maybe don't even recognize, but there's just this pressure there that it's almost like a fish in the ocean where we don't see the water because it just becomes familiar. And we think that going on go mode and perhaps being stressed or a bit overwhelmed is normal. So to be able to step back and look at what is going on, are we living in alignment with what matters most to us and how we want to be living our lives?
Yeah.
If not, then what tweaks can we make, both in our thoughts, in our behaviors, and how we've created and what we have designed for our lives to be in alignment? And how can we stay in alignment then? I almost feel like there's guardrails, right? Like we're going down the road, and then there's times where there's guardrails that if you were driving, you'd hear some rumble strips and then you'd, hit the guardrail. I feel that is some of the things that come up in medicine for physicians are similar to that, where if we're walking around with a lot of stress or overwhelm or frustration, anger, whatever it might be, and hopefully there's joy and everything else in there, those feel like guardrails to me. It's like, oh, it's this little bell of awareness, this reminder. It's like, wait a minute, something's off here. Let's get the car back in the lane and go forward in a way that really feels true and authentic to what we want for our lives.
Yeah, you're speaking my language. I mean, aligning your life with what you actually believe in. And I talk a lot about aligning our spending with what we actually value. And that really goes towards all the decisions that we make in life, the things that we do, finances, of course. Let's explore that connection a little bit more. What's the connection between finances and physician wellness, and what aspects of financial wellness are important, and what steps can we take to better it?
I think that many of us, by evolution, by socialization, perhaps, come to our days with a sense of scarcity.
Yeah.
Pretty easy for us to look around and see how everyone else has it better.
Facebook and social media.
It's terrible for that, right? It's like this whole comparison-itis comes up. And I saw it's just something that came across my feed today in the national news about the incomes of various specialties in medicine. So it posted the salaries of physicians, started with the highest earners, which I think is neurosurgery, but I'm not sure. But it went through. And of course, in pediatrics, I'm like paging through all of these, like, okay, where's peds? And isn't it interesting? My first instinct was like, where's peds in this list? So I think just by nature, humans, we do compare, whether we mean to or need to or anything. And as we do that, it can really foster feelings of scarcity or not enough, or that things should somehow, in a very intangible way, be different than they are. So it's almost like we fight the reality of how things are with this perhaps preconscious belief of, well, things should be different than they are. And I think coaching can help with that, of kind of uncovering what our mind is sharing with us, what our beliefs are. And so often those are such subtle beliefs, we don't even know that they're there.
Sure.
Again, it's like a fish in the ocean. You don't notice the water. Well, I think we carry around beliefs about our financial well-being that may be quite subtle and play out in all kinds of ways. Sometimes things like which career in medicine we choose, or which hospital or clinic we might work at, but also in many other ways of how we spend our time and our talent.
Yeah.
I read something over the weekend I just loved. I was talking with a friend of mine about it. It's in the book Braiding Sweetgrass, which is written by an Indigenous woman on the East Coast. Kimmer is her last name. She had a sentence in there that said, wealth is defined by the ability to share. And I just thought that was such an interesting sentence in this whole book that popped out at me, because it's not just ability to share money, as we often think about it in philanthropy or in other ways, but also in the ability to share our time and our treasures and our talents. I mean, the time and our talents, right?
Yeah.
It's like, how are we choosing to navigate our days? Are we volunteering in our kids' classroom? Do we want to be doing that or not? Do we have any bandwidth left for other things in and outside of medicine that feel true to how we want to be showing up? So that's a really long answer to your question, but I guess my point is that coaching can be so helpful to really help us begin to explore, well, what do I believe about wealth, about finances, and how is that showing up in my life? And is it showing up in a way that I like? Or are there some things that are showing up for me that's really holding me back and keeping me a smaller version of who I am?
What are some of the limiting beliefs that you've encountered when it comes to money and women physicians?
I think that one of the main limiting beliefs I've seen is that there's a boundary to it, that there's a finite piece to it. Your income as a physician is X amount, and then that is all of the money that will be in your life. And that you exchange your energy, you do something, you share your talents, and then in return, you're given X amount of money.
Right.
That it's just kind of predictable and steady. And in a way, I think that was actually often when we go into medicine, so you go get a job and you sign the contract, and here you work X number of weeks a year, and this is what we'll pay you, and this is your benefit package. So I think many physicians, one of the limiting beliefs is that that's it. That's it. There's nothing that's kind of, well, I'm going to do that then, and then I'm going to do that until I retire or change jobs. And it's kind of finite and defining.
Yeah.
I feel if that works for people, wonderful, fantastic, right? If that makes sense for them. But when it can be limiting or finite, it can also hold us back from perhaps considering other options.
Absolutely. I mean, when you're exchanging time for money, your time is inherently tied to your money. And so it's very difficult to make those value-based decisions with your time that you are trying to help us get to, right? Are we actually allotting our time to what we actually value? And are we sharing it in the way that we want to share and showing up for people that we want to show up for? And so once you dissociate time with money earned and learn about investing and grow that muscle of realizing that you can make money without allocating all of your time to it. And that is the secret that wealthy people know, right? Wealth is not just wealth in number, though, but it's wealth in time, like you said.
Absolutely. It's so much wealth in time. I mean, really, isn't that what the money is representing in some way? It's our freedom to make different choices and have options in our life. I think that's what so often the money represents. Oh, we can have healthcare because of this, or we can have a roof over our head and food on our table because of this, right?
Yeah.
But we can also recognize that it's, again, I think wealth viewed in a much more broad and even deeper way. We can recognize that it's the liberty of having those choices, of being able to have agency in what we're designing in our lives. Like, oh, I could exchange my time for X amount of money, or I could do things differently, or I could choose that same amount of time to do something else that is incredibly valuable to me. So just to stand in that agency and recognize that we're not victims to any of this at all, ever. And we have so much more power and choice than we might tend to recognize right off the bat.
Right. I like to remind people that the money that you make is just a paycheck. It doesn't define who you are. And the money that you make, when it comes in, if it just becomes money that then goes out of your household, it doesn't buy you your freedom, right? You have to make that delta between your income and expenses so you can put that money to work and buy your freedom. That's what I'm all about. I'm really thankful that you're out there spreading the message and coaching women to help them understand as well. For those considering a career in coaching, particularly in the medical field, what advice would you have for them? How can they make a meaningful impact on physician wellness?
I think that if someone is considering becoming a coach, training as a coach, and then working as a coach, I think it's important to go experience coaching more than with one person. Like actually truly experience it, just like when you choose to go into medicine, you did so with great deliberation, most likely. I think that when you become a coach, I think that it's important to experience it, get exposure to all different kinds of styles and people, and make that very much a conscious decision. I never, as I work with women physicians in particular who are transitioning into different stages of their career, for example, or different stages of their lives, and looking at, well, what's next for me? I don't ever want someone to be like grabbing something as they're running away, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've got to get out of medicine, so I'm just going to do this. If people are going to go into coaching as a career, I would hope that they're drawn to it.
Mm-hmm.
They're moving forward toward it because of this desire and love for it, not because they have to escape a really awful situation, right?
Yeah. So speaking of finding coaches, how does one go about finding a coach, and how do we know who's the right fit?
Yeah, that's a great question because it can be so tricky, right? There are hundreds and hundreds of coaches, physician coaches across the country and of course in Canada and around the globe. And some of it I think is word of mouth. You can absolutely search online and type in physician coach or physician wellness, and you're going to find various people online. Sometimes workplaces will offer coaching as part of their benefits package, for example. So there's actually a lot of resources for physicians who are interested. We're actually hosting the 4th annual Physician Coaching Summit later this fall, where we're bringing coaches together even. We even have our own conferences. Like there's hundreds of physician coaches now.
Yeah.
So people have a lot of options and a lot of opportunities to work with coaches. And some of it, much like I think if you chose to work with a counselor, for example, you might meet that person and have a conversation and read about them online or talk with other people who've coached with them. Have a conversation before you make any type of commitment and then see if it's a good fit. And if it's not, then that's okay. And find another coach. That really the whole point of coaching is to help you identify what might be holding you back and what can you be doing to move forward with all of your agency in ways that feel in alignment with what you want for your life.
The retreats that you host, can you tell us a little bit about that and how we can get there?
Yes. So The retreats I offer through the Institute for Physician Wellness, you can learn all about our work online. Literally, just Google the Institute for Physician Wellness. We started out offering retreats that were more intimate and very much about our own learning and growth and development about our well-being and in various aspects, really about our self-development, if you will. As things grew, there was so much demand. I started bringing in other speakers as well and specialists in all different aspects of physician well-being. So we might have someone talk about how to negotiate, for example,
Right.
which, we all need to know that. And we're not born with those skills.
Right.
And we certainly don't read them and learn them in med school. Or we might learn about loneliness and how loneliness impacts physicians. It's such a prevalent problem. Or we might learn about coaching. We might learn about sleep, for example, or how to use an EMR efficiently, things like that. So physician wellness in a much more broad sense of the term. And so those early retreats grew into more conferences as they've gotten bigger, and I've brought in a variety of speakers. So we have our physician wellness conferences that we offer a couple of times a year. They're larger and kind of a different vibe than our retreats. The retreats that we offer are strictly with me. And so, for example, every January, we have our retreat at Mirabel, Tucson. This next February, we're going to Costa Rica for an entire week at a wellness retreat center to just focus on our well-being. And at the retreats, it's much more intimate and transformative experience. We're really looking at developing these mindset tools that we teach in coaching and the mind-body practices that we can implement to help guide us as we are navigating our lives at home and at work. So the retreats I love because we really get to know each other in a very different way. And I love when the retreat has come, the arc of the retreat comes to the last day. One, there's so much growth and transformation. It's phenomenal. And everybody looks like they've lost 10 years. It's amazing. But more than that, people walk away with skills and practices that literally you use right away and can make such a deep difference in our lives. And I love empowering people that way. I love empowering physicians. Like, come on retreat and you're going to learn so much that's just going to make such a downstream difference. It's actually a wonderful, wonderful thing to be able to do with physicians. I feel really lucky to be able to do this.
Absolutely. I've been in the fortunate position to attend a lot of wellness conferences, being in the space that I'm in. And every time I go, I leave feeling better about medicine. I leave feeling excited to get back to work, And that's a real privilege to be able to go to something like that. Do you offer any CME at your retreats or CME at your conferences?
We do. Everything I've offered ever since the very first retreat in 2016, we've offered CME. I feel like that's an important piece of this.
Yes.
It is about our personal development, but also professional development. I don't think we can fully take those apart. So according to the ACCME guidelines, right, that is part of what we need to be doing as physicians, just like we need to learn skills within our specialty. So all of the work that I do, whether it's coaching, whether it's our medical education, it's our retreats and conferences, everything has CME.
Wonderful. Well, that's good to know. I mean, a lot of employed physicians have CME budgets, and even contractors can write it off as an expense for their profession. So that's a very important piece. And thank you for doing what you're doing. Are there any other last words of wisdom you'd like to leave our audience with, Kathy?
I would love for people to know that it's 100% possible. I have no doubt in this, that it is 100% possible to enjoy a life in medicine and outside of medicine. And that's going to look so differently for different people at different stages of our careers. And I think because what we want in our 20s and 30s is different in our 40s and 50s and beyond. And so to be able to recognize that, when people are struggling, when they're stressed, if they're wondering if they should be in medicine or not, if it's time to do something else, I think it's so important to really hold on to that sense of agency, that sense of power that things can be better. And it's just a matter of figuring that out and digging into that. It's what makes sense for you with what you want for your life? And I don't want people to give up hope. And for some people, it means walking away from medicine. And for a lot of people, it means making some changes within medicine. I think, to be honest, most physicians love medicine. They just don't want to practice it how it's being practiced right now in our country.
Yeah.
To be able to figure out a way that allows them to enjoy what they love doing, be able to have that hope. I would love for your listeners to know that it's possible and to not give up that hope.
It's a constant process, finding the balance and then maintaining it, because there's so many external forces out there pushing you, to, sacrifice yourself and your well-being to, make another buck. That's always going to be there. And to have these reminders of, that, hey, slow down, look inwards. Are you happy? Are you making the decisions you want to make? Are you showing up the way you want to show up? And if not, then what can we do? How can we make this better? Because in the end, we are incredibly privileged being in the profession that we are. We have a bunch of knowledge that's incredibly useful to people. And all you need to say is, this is what I need. This is what I need to do. And things will get better because everyone does want to make that possible for you as much as difficult as it seems.
It can feel so difficult and actually unbelievable, I think, for many physicians. Like, well, no, it works for so-and-so, but that's not going to work for me. Or our brain offers us all these ideas of why it's not possible.
Yeah.
To recognize that it's like, oh, my brain's doing that thing again where I'm feeling stuck or whatever it might be. And actually takes, I think, fierce skills to be able to be well in an environment that always wants more from you. It's developing those skills, putting them into practice, continuing to develop them because there's always going to be the next thing. So it's a process. It's not an overnight fix. And it is absolutely, I think these are life skills that every single physician should have. And we go through all this training and then we walk into a really high stress, high risk profession. I don't think anybody knows going into medicine how high risk it is that they are going to have burnout or other issues because we're working in such a high risk career.
Yes.
So having those really fierce skills, I think it's just, to me, it's like, oh my goodness, I could not imagine not having these skills now that I've learned some of the things I've learned.
Fierce skills. I love how you put that. Absolutely. I mean, that's really, a lot of people look at boundaries or saying, I need more or I need this as a sign of weakness, but it's really fierce that when you can actually just say it and get it done, and then continue to practice because that's really what everyone needs of you is to stay in medicine.
Oh, absolutely. And not feel guilty when you do advocate for yourself.
Exactly.
Right? So it's a big deal to actually step up and say, this is what I need, or I'm not able to do that, or whatever it might be. But then we walk away. How many physicians go home that night or that middle of the night and they're thinking it over still? They're thinking about it on the drive home.
Guilty.
We're to be able to do that in a way where we're not walking with that. Like, one, we can advocate for ourselves in a healthy way, but two, we can do so without feeling guilty.
Right. Well, Dr. Stepien, this has been truly a pleasure. I swear we got to talk about this forever, but I really, really appreciate your time. And I know it's limited. So thank you so much for taking the time to come on our podcast here today and sharing your wisdom.
Thanks for having me.
That wraps up today's episode of Finding Financial Freedom with the Frugal Physician. I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Kathy Stepien for her valuable insights on physician wellness and connection to finance. If you'd like to learn more about Kathy's work or get in touch with her, we'll have her contact information in the episode description below. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing to our podcast and leaving us a review. Your feedback helps us continue bringing you informative content. Stay tuned for more episodes on financial wellness, and remember, financial freedom is within your reach. A big thank you for our sponsor today, Set for Life Insurance. No matter what your insurance needs are, Set for Life Insurance has you covered. They're a nationally recognized leader in disability, life, and long-term care insurance, serving clients across all 50 states. Their dedicated team specializes in assisting medical residents, physicians, dentists, business owners, and other high-income professionals. Here's one from A.M. Higgs. I've been following the show for a long time, and she and I have parallel stories. I love how down-to-earth and personable she is, and I'm excited to listen to this podcast. So happy for her success. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the feedback, and I really appreciate your support. Please take a moment to leave us a review so we can hear from you. All right, folks, stay frugal, and we'll see y'all next week.
The content shared on this podcast should not be taken as individualized financial advice. We are here to share our knowledge and experiences, but it is crucial to consult with professionals such as accountants, financial advisors, or attorneys who can provide personalized guidance.